Welcome back to the 300 podcast. So today I'm joined by David Indo. So David is the CEO of ID Comms here in London. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you. Before we get into it, how are you? What's new at ID Comms? And how's the last sort of 12 months been for you?
Good. Well, thank you for inviting me. I've been looking forward to coming. You had my co-founder Tom Denford a few months ago.
And we didn't want you to feel left out.
Thank you,
Yeah.
and you don't now, so thank you for that.
Good.
We're good. So ID Comms is a strategic media consulting company. We're headquartered in London and New York. We've been operational for 17 years. So
I remember when you started.
This is it, a long time ago. And we're good. You know, the market is buoyant. We're doing a lot of good strategic work. We're preparing ourselves, I think, for a really busy 2026. This year is going to be really busy for all of us. And we'll talk about that, I think, today.
Yep.
But we're in a good place. Thank you.
Excellent. So 17 years, I guess you've seen the needs of clients change, the pitch market change quite a lot. What are clients looking for nowadays, and what do you think the big things are that's changed in the last few years, probably especially since COVID?
I think the biggest pivot has been from a focus of commercial greed to one of kind of strategic need. I think that's probably been the biggest kind of shift. As you know, we've seen more and more money migrating towards kind of programmatic and addressable based marketplaces, where the opportunity for advertisers to secure immediate hard savings has shrunk. So has the kind of the profile and the needs of the briefs. Now, competitive advantage comes from strategic excellence, comes from a forensic understanding of the target audience, comes from a clear link from media input to some form of business kind of output. And these are kind of strategic frameworks that most advertisers now are looking for. There is always a kind of a need to drive efficiencies within kind of media spend, but I don't think it's as dominant as it was perhaps 5 or 6 years ago.
Do you think agencies have changed quick enough to reflect what these clients are needing?
I think they are.
Yeah.
I mean, agencies have always been chameleons. You know, they've been brilliantly adept at redesigning themselves to kind of fit the brief of that particular client and the need of that particular client. And I think they are. And I think that the way that they've invested in technology, the way that they've invested in data, they have been very progressive in anticipating the needs of advertisers as the kind of the democratization of media has had a massive impact on what advertisers want from their media agency partners. So I think they are. Are they perfectly delivering against the needs of those clients? Not yet.
No.
But I have to say the sophistication, and I'm talking mostly about the big holding companies,
Yeah.
the sophistication of the narrative around a marketing communications partnership is as polished as it has ever been. And when the agencies get it right, it is deeply impressive.
So I remember when I used to, the pitch would land, we'd get these massive documents, and clients, it would seem, would ask for the world. Massive amount of work goes on behind the scenes with you and with the client. What does it take to create a good pitch experience for an agency?
A lot of hard work.
Yeah.
The pitch preparation phase for a big regional or global media review is about 3 months.
Right.
So before the agencies receive the invite to participate in a tendering process, at least 3 months worth of work has taken place to align stakeholders, to design evaluation criteria, to work on scenario plans. What if procurement want to choose agency A and marketing want to choose agency B? Who is the ultimate decision maker? What is the strategic briefs that will go through the process? What is the right remuneration model? All of these components need to be developed, aligned, and fully prepared before the invite goes out. If you get that bit right, then the pitch process is a process to be managed with high momentum and good communication and good direction, but that is process management. The hard work for a consultant like, or a consultancy like ID Comms, is at the beginning in the
Yeah.
preparation, and that is absolutely critical. And if you get that bit wrong, then the process itself can be a little bit hairy. But if you get it right, then it should be plain
Smooth.
sailing. Yeah.
I can imagine stakeholder management is one of the most
Yeah.
difficult. You get different fiefdoms, different people want different things.
It
and
is.
getting them to all agree up front, so there's no ambiguity
Absolutely
at the
right.
end,
Yeah.
is the biggest.
And I think the biggest challenge is, we see more and more consolidations. So more and more businesses that have operated often in a very decentralized kind of way, where there are local control centers at a local level, local P&Ls. They've had often local relationships with, agencies in a local market. The desire to kind of centralize this, to make it more consistent, to deliver the efficiencies that you may get from a consolidated approach with a big holding company or a big network, that requires navigating individual stakeholders along a process prior to any kind of pitch brief being released.
Yeah. You see lots of agencies.
Yeah.
So on the whole, what do agencies do well, and what do they do when you think, oh, why do you keep doing this? What's the thing they keep getting wrong?
Well, there isn't really one thing. I mean, all of the agencies are adept. You get, and it depends what day you get them, quite frankly.
Yes.
Some days you'll see an agency and they're just so on fire. You may see the same agency a week later, sometimes with the same people delivering the presentation, and it's never quite as polished. I think a lot of it is actually down to the client. A lot of it is down to the clarity of the brief. If an agency is able to truly understand what the ask is, if they're able to really untangle the brief and define what the client is looking for from a media agency partner, then they're able to adapt themselves to kind of answer it. And so where agencies tend to get it wrong is when they guess throughout the kind of the process, when they're taking kind of risks, when they're taking the big kind of bets because they're not quite sure what the ask is. Maybe that's because there's ambiguity in the brief, or there is mixed messaging within the components of the brief. But generally speaking, where I've seen the agencies truly perform at their best is when they understand what the client is looking for, when they understand culturally what the makeup of the client is, and they can reflect that kind of cultural nuance within their own teams. And then it's all about high momentum, really good communication, and then a desire to commit to that client for the future.
It's interesting, the first point you said there, outside of the brief, was culture. So data and technology now has become such a foundational element to what big agencies now put forward to clients. What role does this play compared to culture, human beings? Is this table stakes or?
Yeah, I think so. I think, but I mean, it's a big play, right? And the investment that's gone into technology, the investment that has gone into data centers is enormous, and the operating model by which agencies work is often the first thing that is shared in a presentation. This is how, if you work with us, we will be working.
Yeah.
And these are the benefits that it kind of plays. Now, the challenge that agencies have is in simplifying the complexity of that.
Yeah.
I've sat in meetings where it's like a smorgasbord, a buffet of things that you could get from this agency from a tech or operating model perspective. Where the agencies are truly effective is when they're able to simplify that. They're able to simplify that, and at the very heart of that simplification is a clear articulation of the benefit to the client. So where agencies get it wrong is when they talk about benefits to themselves.
Yeah.
When they ground that narrative in a benefit to the client, then it becomes far more seductive.
Yeah. We work with a number of agencies, and they've asked us to help articulate their data and technology story. We always say, look, there should never be a data and technology. It powers everything you do. It's your infrastructure, it powers your media, and you demonstrate it through the pitch rather than, here's our data and technology, and we're now going to get on with everything else.
Yeah. But often there's a danger that because it's technology, because the language around technology can be complicated and impenetrable, that they think that the more complex the narrative, the smarter they are.
Yeah.
The reality is that the client just thinks that it's too confusing.
Mm.
Paddy, when you and I were starting off, the greatest practitioners of media were strategists who were able to simplify really complex theories. And I think the greatest challenge that agencies have now is finding people that are able to simplify the narrative around technologies.
Yeah, I had a conversation with, she was the media director, a mere FMCG company, talking about data and technology. She said, I know I need to know about it, but I don't have the head
Yeah,
capacity. I want someone to make it super simple for me so I understand what the output's going to be and I can rely on them to do it.
absolutely.
She said, I went into one meeting where I had to stop them halfway through. I said, I don't understand you. Can you tell me how much it costs? They said, no, I can't. So are you going to be able to? So
Yeah,
there's no transparency, no explanation. It was just very,
yeah,
very difficult for
I
them.
know. I mean, Mark Pritchard said, right? It's your complexity, not ours.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
absolutely.
And I think those are the ones that are going to win. Those are where I've seen really effective pitches is when the message is simple, when there is a deep inherent understanding of the client's needs, and when there is a uh, almost an unconditional commitment of that agency to find the resources, to aggregate those resources, and to engineer a process that will deliver against it. And that's a fairly compelling story if you're a client.
Yeah, and ultimately it's not what it is, it's what it's going to do for the
Yeah,
client. So
exactly right.
can I just go back to when you were talking about a good brief and agencies succeed when they answer the brief?
Yeah.
I have a number of agencies going, we need to find the brief beneath the brief.
Mm.
Is there such a thing? Is this almost serving something up to a client that they didn't even realise they needed? Or do you
Yeah.
think they just need to stop looking for what could be the Holy Grail and
Well,
just answer the brief you've been given brilliantly?
that's a really good question. And I'm going to answer it by giving you an example of an experience that I had just last week. So I was asked to facilitate a half-year business review between a global agency network and a client of ours that we'd run the pitch for. And this was the first HBR that they'd run. So just after the honeymoon period. They were awarded last year. This is the first period where they can assess the relationship and where it's at. And we do a lot of these service evaluations, HBRs, QBRs, and it was without question the best, most productive, most impressive set of results that I've ever seen,
Wow.
both on the client side and on the agency side. The client was deeply impressed with the thought leadership that they were receiving from the client, all the things that generally fall down in a service evaluation. On the agency side, they were impressed with the inclusivity, the briefing, all of the things often that clients get marked down on in these situations. And so in my conclusion, in my kind of wrap up of the session, I said, for what it's worth, these scores are the best I've ever seen. Well done. I think you're set for a fantastic 3-year relationship. And the head of the agency responded by saying, by the way, it was really easy because you set us up for success in the pitch. We were so clear as to what you were looking for from an agency partner. You were so prescriptive in your needs of a future agency partner that we simply designed our operating model and our team structure around it. So it's a long way of answering
Yeah.
your question, but it is so important. If the brief, and I don't mean the strategic brief, I mean often the operational brief. How do you want the teams to act? What is it that you are looking for from a media agency partner? Is it thought leadership? Is it just seamless, integrated, full funnel marketing communications? Is it AI enabled, optimized? Ask those questions. And if the brief in its first interpretation doesn't give you those answers, then I think you have absolutely every right to interrogate it more. Don't challenge the brief, but ask questions that will allow you to just lift the layers of the onion a little bit more, because the clearer you are, the better you are to answer it. And if you can convince them that you're able to answer that brief or their needs in the right kind of way, you'll win. And if the brief, frankly, is opaque and slightly distracting or confusing, and you're the only agency that is able to or has the desire to interrogate it a little bit more, then that will give you a competitive advantage.
Yeah. Operating models are kind of one of the most important things.
Mm.
How you orchestrate your resources and knit them together to be tailored to a client's need. If you don't get that right, nothing else is really going to work.
Yeah.
You know,
It's so important. And actually, and the truth of the matter is that when it comes to technology, when it comes to data, there's not a great deal between all of the big
No.
kind of companies.
Yeah.
The competitive advantage is, team talent,
Yeah.
how you deploy that talent, so the operating model, how reassured that client is that you can function effectively within that operating model, and thirdly, and most importantly, how quickly you can, get the machine up and running.
Yeah, absolutely.
To help deliver whatever they need.
So if the operating model is how they do stuff, the commercial model is how they get paid for doing that stuff. Many years we've been talking about innovative commercial models, outputs not inputs, performance-based models. Are agencies and clients really embracing this output-based approach to commercials? Is it just fundamentally too difficult for clients to do or for agencies to do? Or is it just going to continue to be a slow burn that will incrementally get more and more traction in the industry?
I think more progressive forms of remuneration are widely accepted and embraced.
Yeah.
I think depending on which category you are as a client, you're slightly more open to that. If you are a performance-based business, then outcome-based remuneration structures make a little bit more sense. I think that some more conservative businesses need gentle evolution in this area rather than kind of revolution. I think the agencies are keener to operate within kind of license fees for technology and outcome-based remuneration models at the other end, with a sprinkling of kind of FTE structures for really good kind of strategic talent and account kind of leadership. Frankly, the best briefs that I've seen coming from advertisers to agencies are those open-ended ones that aren't overly prescriptive. This is our business. This is how we kind of operate. You understand what our business needs are. If we work with you, then you will become a partner in growth. How would you look to be remunerated in a fair and equitable way based on the principles that we will establish working together? Let's figure that out together. The old days of comparing one commission level from one agency with another, I think are long gone.
It is done. That's encouraging.
Yeah, I think so.
Even the term you said, partner for growth.
Yeah.
Not a supplier.
Yeah.
It's a partner for growth.
And I think one of the advantages of operating in such a complex and dynamic marketplace that we operate in now is that the agency groups are far more discerning and selective in the processes that they go after.
Right.
Because they have to.
Yeah.
They have to be. Because they know that the workload that will be asked of them through these processes is going to be heavy. They have a duty of care to their teams, and they can't go for everything. So they are far more selective in the processes that they accept, given that they're also defending at the same time
and running current
current kind of businesses. There are certain types of businesses, if they're asking the wrong things, if the brief is lazy, if it speaks volumes of the type of client that client will be should you work with them, and they'll just say no. And so they're far more selective. Agencies are far more selective, and the criteria by which they go through that selection process is really important. And one of those things is, I would imagine, the type of remuneration structure that will be asked of them should they be successful as part of that process.
It's interesting that, and this is I guess, word of advice for agency leadership, to make sure their people know that, because I know the people on the ground feel like we just pitch for everything. We
Yeah.
say no to we don't say no to anything.
We have a responsibility of that as intermediaries or as consultants in the process. I say to my clients, the biggest challenge that you will have is not at the end of the process selecting your agency. It's not actually during the process when you're managing the process. It is at the very beginning of the process when you are trying to convince the leadership of very busy agency groups in a very congested marketplace that yours is the brief that they need to be focusing their resources on. At that conversation, you need to convince them that you have a vision for media. You need to convince the group, the stakeholders, that this is a pitch process that they should be focusing on, that there is a strategic vision, that this is not going to be a race to the bottom, that you are looking for a partner in growth. And if you can get that narrative right, if you can inspire the agency community at the beginning of the process, then you're in.
Again, that's an interesting change in our world, isn't it? It used to be, I'm the client, come and pitch for
Well,
me.
it was.
Whereas, yeah,
You would send 15 RFIs or invites, and you would get everybody saying yes, coming back. And then you would slowly kind of eliminate and shortlist as you went through the kind of process. The belief, the acceptance that you're going to get all agencies accepting the invitation at the beginning of the process by default is not true any longer. You have to work, as a client, you have to work really hard at the beginning of the process.
Yeah.
Once you get them in, once the agencies have committed to being part of the process, then you'll see magic. But my clients work really hard at the beginning of the process to inspire the leadership, because it's their job to then inspire their teams to work on the processes that we'll manage.
The first ever pitch I worked on that I saw the client do that was one of yours a while ago, large global bank.
I
Brought
remember.
everybody together, 2 or 3 hour presentation,
Yeah.
time with people afterwards,
Yeah.
have conversation. I remember walking out of there going, wow.
Yeah.
And it's like, we want to pitch for this.
But and the result of that, by the way,
Yeah.
and your old agency won it,
Yeah,
was just brilliant work.
yeah,
Because that's all we do. We want the agencies that participate in our processes to showcase their best work. We want, at the end of the process, the decision to be so difficult for the client because there's no bad choice.
yeah.
And you do that by allowing the client to share their vision for media with the agency, the role that they want that agency to play, not just now, but also in 3 years' time. And then the supporting content, all the briefs and all of the components of the process need to enable and establish that even more.
I was on a podcast this time last year and they asked me what my favourite ever pitch was, and I still cited that pitch, which was 8 years ago.
Yeah, it's good.
Fortunately.
I remember it, yeah.
Absolutely. We've talked about culture. We had a conversation before Christmas, and you said clients still make decisions on people.
Yeah.
In a world where AI can generate strategies, it can come up with ideas, it can visualize stuff, it can create films, what role does the team and the human interaction play in pitches now?
It's probably even more important.
Right.
But the amount of people that you need on your team will reduce.
Yeah.
So it's about having the right people at the right times through this process. We're not going to reverse this trend. So, all clients are embracing technology. All clients are embracing progressive ways of operating models. They are wanting AI to help their processes be more efficient and more effective. However, when you sit in a pitch presentation, when you're sitting in a room, it's not the technology that wins that pitch. It's not the videos that showcase the brilliance of AI-enabled, tech-driven processes that win that process. It is the charm, the empathy, the confidence, the articulation of the account leadership team, of the strategists, of the data scientists, of the data leaders that are going to be working on your business. That's what wins the pitch, because on the other side of the table are people, are marketeers, are procurement leaders, are media leaders, and they want to work with people. They have an obligation to work with the right operating structures for their companies, but ultimately they want to work with the right kind of people.
Yeah. So if you could give an agency or agencies 2 or 3 pieces of advice of the things that should be steadfast pillars in a pitch, whether it's behaviours or deliverables, what would they be?
The first is choose wisely. So be selective on the pitches that you want to really work on. Make sure that they fit your profile. Make sure that you have the energy and the commitment to go after it. That's the first thing. So choose wisely. The next criteria is choose your team appropriately. So make sure that the casting of that pitch team is reflective of the culture of that company. And then the third thing is interrogate the brief. As you say, find the brief within the brief. Make sure that you are super clear as to what the ask is. And if you are super clear as to what the ask is, then design your process with that brilliant team to enable that to happen. And those are the 3 things. So
Yeah.
be selective, get the right team, and then understand what the real ask is.
Excellent. I saw a brilliant stroke sensationalist quote the other day that was published in the trade press, that apparently 96% of all marketing directors, and I think this was the UK, but was a 96% of all marketing directors are going to call a pitch this year. Firstly, I hope not, for all of our sanity. I think that's slightly sensationalist statement. What do you think 26 looks like for the agencies? What do you think is going to be the big things we're going to see?
Well, I certainly don't think that 96% of all...
You're hoping not as well.
Well,
Yeah,
I think that's... Yeah, but I'm
Yes.
not quite sure where they've got that number from.
No.
But what I do say is that this is going to be a busy year.
Yeah.
There is a lot of disruption in the marketplace. There's a lot of change happening, not least with the big holding companies. The independents are rising. The independents have now a really, really strong proposition. The demands of clients are changing constantly. The onset of AI and technology to enable smarter, quicker decision making is prevalent in all kind of marketing asks. It's like a perfect storm. You've got dynamic changes in the marketplace which are encouraging advertisers to think about their agency relationships. You've got different options in play with the independents, and then you've got technology which is acting as a catalyst for both changing internal and external operating models. So if you see this as a kind of a perfect storm, we expect this to be a very buoyant either pitch or renegotiation year.
Yeah.
The strategic asks will be more prevalent within those briefs, which is why the agencies, I think, need to be more selective in the processes that they go after. We will see more integration of kind of content, media, and creative. We'll see more consolidation of local businesses needing regional structures or global structures. And at the heart of that, still will be the right kind of people. So the ability for agencies to nurture that talent, make sure that they are working at a pace that is appropriate to their needs, but also the needs of the marketplace, will be really, really important. But I think 2026 is going to be a fairly frenetic year when it comes to, media reviews.
You mentioned independence. So volume-based buying now plays less of a role because of bid-based buying. Technology infrastructure and costs have come down massively, mainly because of AI. Do you think this is a massive opportunity for the independent agencies, as long as they've got the right people? Because what used to be the things that drove the market, which was volume and scale, and the ability to invest, have now reduced a lot.
Yeah, I think so. But I think then the challenges are elsewhere. So their ability to perhaps deliver against price commitments that the big holding companies, could easily deliver because of their aggregated billings,
Yeah.
is obviously less of a need. But there's no doubting that the big holding companies have got the deeper pockets when it comes to investing in technology,
Yeah.
and being able to kind of use data in a kind of smarter way. But then the independents are just going to have to pivot. They just pivot in a different kind of way. You know, they bring to the fore more kind of curated strategic thinking in a more kind of cherished way. You know, the big holding companies are not right for everybody. There will always be a marketplace for curated, strategic, craftsman-like agencies that can offer clients something that the big holding companies don't want to and can't.
Yeah, absolutely. So at 300, we've got a mascot. It is a goat and it has wings on it. Don't ask why.
Yeah.
If you had a goat, you know, a greatest of all time within your career, who would that person be?
Wow. Do you know who I'm going to say?
Go on.
I hadn't prepared this, by the way.
No, I didn't let you prepare this. I
Yeah.
thought I'd put you on the spot.
My first boss
Yeah,
was a lady called Ita Murphy.
right.
And this was a long time ago. I'm not even sure if Ita's still in the industry. But she was my first boss when I was a graduate trainee at DMB&B, which was a big creative agency. And I worked in the media department there. And Ita Murphy terrified me. She was a force of nature. I'm sure she still is a force of nature. But she taught me the principles of client management and the principles of media that 30 years, 40, however long I'm still been working in the industry,
It's still there.
still hold true. And so my foundational values and the fundamentals by which I work every day with my clients and how I mentor my team were established by me working with a fairly terrifying Ita Murphy all those years ago.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much, David.
My pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm glad we could have yourself and Tom.
Good.
You know, now.
Good.
Glad to hear that ID Comms are doing well, and look forward to what we see from you in 2026.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to all of our viewers and our listeners, and tune in next time for 300 Seconds on Agency Growth.